This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning, recording from my home studio here in Gilbert, Arizona. It's kind of funny I say that every time. I don't necessarily need to tell you who I am and where I'm recording from, but I do need to let you know who this is brought to you by, of course. Coming up on today's show, I'm going to talk about the JAS Motorsports Pininfarina NSX that has basically broken the internet in a great way. And also Q is on this show. Q is back because we do have some football stuff to catch up to. That'll be the second half of the show. Also recently just got done doing an NSX event with our good friends over at the warehouse, and that was fantastic. The NSXCA co-sponsored that event, and special shout out to Rebecca and the warehouse. If you guys have not checked those events out, you can always see them on social media, thewarehouse.az, and of course on my social media, Hard Parking Pod or Jhae Pfenning directly. But we're going to talk about this JAS Motorsports NSX right after this word from Arcus Foundry, Spark Forge. So quick story for you. A listener lost a big job, missed the call, never saw the DM, probably because he was listening to this podcast. It happens, and it's fixable. Running a business shouldn't mean juggling a dozen apps and missing opportunities. Spark Forge helps you reply faster, capture more leads, and get more reviews, all without adding hours to your day. One simple place to handle calls, texts, and social messages so you can focus on the work that pays. It's like finally putting your business on cruise control without losing the steering wheel. One login, one platform, all under your control. Consolidate your tech in one place to save time, money, and headache. The future is here, and it's powered by SparkForge AI from our friends at Arcus Foundry. Jump into a 30-day trial today by using code HARDPARKED at getsparkforge.ai and stop letting yesterday's tech eat tomorrow's profits. So before I talk about this car, the event that we did at the warehouse was great. We only had about a week and a half to plan the event because they just did the Code R project that we had just talked about, I think on the last episode, dedicated to the Nissan GTR and the Skylines, and that itself was a fantastic event. This one we were able to get about 26 NSXs there, but the big one was a 1997 NSX Type S Yellow, fresh from Japan. And of course, Science of Speed, which is, of course, local to me here, they get cars from all over the world to do servicing. So this was a very legit, and I'd never seen one before in person, only in video games and only online, yellow Type S. A couple hundred of them were made in the entire Type S lineage, and that includes the 1999 Alex Zanardi American version Type S, essentially the same car, just American. But the event itself, we had obviously my car, we had the Gotham Gray NSX Type S, we had a ton of different cars. My friend Chuck brought up his Aim Gain wide body NSX from Tucson, one of 3 right now in the United States with that body kit. Most people thought it was a GT3 car. I mean, that's how sick the car was. And then, of course, special shout out to all my other friends that brought their cars. Steve left his car, and we had a few guys drive up from Tucson. So it was a fantastic event, and I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. So I'm looking at this JAS NSX designed by Pininfarina. This is a Restomod for those of you not living on the internet like I do or aren't in those algorithms where everybody sends you the same story about the same thing because you're an NSX person. This thing looks pretty cool. I've talked to several fellow NSX owners about it, and I've said, hey, guys, what do you think about this? And I think overwhelmingly the opinions are positive. I have not heard anyone say anything negative about this. One thing I do want to point out is it's not a real car yet. We're looking at a lot of AI renderings. It looks like a body kit that I would probably like on my first gen NSX. So if I had the money to acquire this, and I'll tell you how much it's estimated to cost soon, I don't think this should be anyone's first NSX. I think it belongs in a collection of somebody who has either already owned an NSX or has an NSX, and you could say, hey, this is the one I have over here. So this thing is called Tensei, Tensei, and I'm looking at it again, designed by Pininfarina. So for those of you who don't know, you non-car people who watch this podcast to support me or just to learn a few things, very famous car design company, I believe out of Italy, that had designed a lot of 80s and 90s cars, and I think a few afterwards. Forgive me if I'm missing some of the major cars, but usually you see it on the side of Ferrari's Pininfarina, especially the early like 80s, 90s cars. This thing has a full carbon fiber body, completely custom. But the catch is, in order to get this vehicle made, somebody has to donate a first-gen NSX. That is kind of a problem because the value of the cars have gone up so much. So you really need a high-mileage, semi-clapped-out NSX, kind of like my old one. Although the thing looked great, but realistically, I had a lot of miles on there, and it had a lot of custom work. So it actually lost its collectability value. One thing I think of when I look at this car is it's not, I mean, it's obviously not original. It's a Restomod, but you have to have an original car to do it. I first thought about Singer, and Singer does the Porsches. I don't know if you have any idea what a Singer Porsche is. Again, I'm talking to those of you who aren't really into the car world. You need to look up Singer Porsche. And yeah, Singer, actually like the sewing machine company. It's the same Singer. What they do is they take a Porsche, a classic 911, and they redo some of the body panels, and they completely pimp out the interior in a very nice, like, chef's kiss way. And then the car's worth like a couple $100,000 immediately. Like, they do a lot of really neat things to these older Porsches. And I've seen them before in person. I thought they were just works of art. And if I just had FU money, I would try to buy a Singer if one came up for sale. And I would add it to my existing collection of one or two other Porsches. But that would not be my only Porsche, no matter how much money I had. There's a company called Gunther Werks, and they've made a lot of noise the past few years for their 911 builds as well. They do a carbon fiber 993 NSX. They do a carbon fiber 993 Porsche, and I don't know if they've done some of the other ones because I haven't really paid that much attention. So a 993, think about, I was going to say Bad Boys Porsche, but that's not a 993. But that's like my favorite Porsche is the 95 to 97, I think is the 993, keep me honest, Porsches. And that's one of my favorite ones. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But what they do is they make a full carbon fiber Porsche. It's wider than the original one. They have these really nice new taillights, these really nice headlights. And it's essentially a Restomod with a reworked motor of the original car, produces a lot more power, and it just looks modern. It looks like a Porsche that was originally from the mid-90s because it's a 993. And when they spit out the new version, it's a modernized in any way, shape, or form. You could think of Porsche that looks like the old car. That's what this NSX looks like. I think it's more like the Gunther Werks Porsche than it is a Singer Porsche. A little bit about this car. It looks like it's going to use the original 3.0 liter engine, reworked for a little more power, and it's going to be a 6-speed manual, and only in a 6-speed manual. I wonder why they didn't use a 3.2 liter from the original NA2. The 3.0 is the 91 through 96 and any automatic NSX from the first gen. They say it's going to cost about $1 million. And again, like I said, you need a donor NSX. So you have to decide that I have so much FU money, I'm going to destroy my beautiful first-gen NSX, which, they sell on Bring a Trailer for a couple $100,000. Nice examples. One thing I always say is when you see an NSX, a first-gen NSX, and it has a wide-body kit on it, or it has some of the even crazier kits on it, it's because it's been wrecked or because salvage title. Because a lot of the parts aren't available. Now, there are people who have taken perfectly clean NSXs with no issues and wide-body them, like my good friend Mike Tran here. He perfectly good 95 red NSX, and he wide-bodied it, put the fixed lights on it, turboed it, all that stuff, redid the interior. His car, he can do what he wants with it. But most of the time, when you see an NSX that's all glitzed out, it's either the person's third or fourth vehicle that they bought, so they're not the original owner, or maybe they bought a very high-mileage NSX that maybe had a few accidents and it wasn't necessarily totaled or completely clapped out, but they wanted to roll the dice and do it. So that's not every wide body you see. So those of you who don't know, if you look up Rocket Bunny NSX, spelled just like it sounds, Rocket Bunny NSX, that Rocket Bunny NSX replaces every single panel on the car. It's not a Rocket Bunny hood and a factory door and factory rear fenders and a rocker bunny spoiler. Like the whole thing completely changed the NSX. So it looks like an NSX sort of, but not really. And I don't think anyone's ever put a rocket bunny kit. I think it's about $26,000, $27,000 kit on their NSX that had a perfectly clean car to begin with. So but then that's your target, right? So who's going to have $1 million and be willing to destroy a clean NSX? And then for those people who had that kind of money, they're not going to have a clapped out NSX to begin with. So I'm curious to see how this is going to go. The fact that you need a donor unit, it's kind of weird, right? I mean, it makes sense for what they're doing, but I don't think people really think about that. So let's think about that. So I have a lot of money and have a perfectly clean car because I'm very meticulous with my money and my car collection. And I'm going to make the decision to take that very clean car and completely destroy it and rebuild it. I was thinking about this before. You have Godzilla, and Godzilla's fine. Everyone loves Godzilla. Godzilla always wins. But then Mecha Godzilla, a human creation of the original Godzilla, better in every single way. It's mechanical, it's stronger, it's more durable, and Mecha Godzilla beats the shit out of Godzilla. And then in the end, Godzilla actually beats Mecha Godzilla. But that's what this NSX looks like to me. This is the Mecha Godzilla version of the first gen NSX. And it is a really cool looking car. But when I started this, I said I talked to a few other NSX owners and I didn't tell you what they thought. So we were talking, and I've talked about half a dozen, and we all kind of arrived at the same place. We think that this JAS Tensei, as they call it, NSX is really cool, but it just kind of feels like it just something's missing from the original car. So it'd be really nice to have it as a complementary vehicle if you already have one, but I don't know of any current NSX lover that is willing to completely alter their car for this. But there will be some, obviously, and they're probably going to sell out. I'm just speaking based on the people that I know that have the first gen. You know, my 97 NSX, it wasn't very, like, by the time I bought it, it had already been wrecked a couple times, and I actually didn't pull the Carfax on it, because had I done that, I probably wouldn't have bought it, because it scored out really low. I'm glad I didn't, because I had loved and enjoyed that car for 9 years. But, you know, eventually I put the turbo on it. In the last few years I owned it, it was turbo fast as shit. I completely redid the interior because it was originally Berlina black and camel interior, so black and tan. And those of you who know me always knew it to be red interior and eventually carbon fiber seats. And so I completely changed the car, but I put OEM red seats in there at first before I put the carbon fiber ones. It has the fixed lights instead of the pop-ups. It's supposed to come with pop-ups. I had different fenders at the end, different taillights. Long story short, that would have been a perfect car if I had the money to go ahead and throw out a program like this. And so there's a lot of cars out there, but most people that have cars out there aren't going to have $1 million to throw at it. That's my whole point in all this. So I'm not saying it's not worth it. I think it is if you have the money. But it looks like they're going to try to come out with an actual tangible prototype in May of 2026. And then they'll actually produce the cars, or I guess they're going to try to deliver the cars by maybe at some point in 2027. But maybe then we'll actually have a true third-gen NSX, and none of it will matter. But long story short, I think it's a really cool-looking car. Part of me says I would love to have one, and this is a body kit I would love to put on the car. And then part of me is like, it's just not the same thing. And I think most of the people that are very excited about this car aren't NSX owners and have never owned an NSX. But that's really all I have to say about this car. I do like it. Do I want it? No. Would I take it? Probably. But I would love to see it in person. So let's go talk to Q.
Ready, down, hunt.
All right, Q. Welcome back. I've been teasing this for a while. Let's go back to the beginning of the football season. You took Texas. I took the field. You're a Michigan guy. I'm a Longhorns guy. We both love college football. It's funky that it worked out that unfortunately Texas couldn't get into the playoffs, and you know, I have some opinions on that. But also, Michigan didn't beat Ohio State for the first time in like 30 years. I know it hasn't been that long, but Michigan plays Texas. So we're going to get to that. That's on New Year's Eve. So we'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about this college football playoffs and who we have matched up. So going into that very vague opening, what are your reaction to the selection and ultimately the teams that were on the bubble or didn't get in?
I can't say anything surprised me. I knew Notre Dame, Miami would kind of go either way. Um, but I'm not really surprised. I think the matchups they're pretty decent. I don't, and this is just me personally, I don't necessarily like some of the rematches. I don't want to see Ole Miss and Tulane again. Um, I mean, Alabama, Oklahoma sounds good, but I would like to have seen some fresh matches. But aside from that, I think it's fine. I mean, it's always going to be controversy, just like March Madness now.
Yeah, but the difference is obviously March Madness is any given game take all, and I guess it's kind of the deal here, maybe sort of, but it's just the difference in the football. It's funny that Oregon. I'm looking at the matchup, so let me go down the matchups. We have Oregon versus James Madison. A lot of controversy on James Madison getting in. Alabama versus Oklahoma, like you just stated. Tulane versus Ole Miss, like you just stated, and Miami and Texas A&M. That looks like a fun matchup. But did Miami and Texas A&M play already?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And then Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, and Texas Tech all have a bye. Indiana is quite the surprise.
Yeah, Kurt Signetti turned those guys around, and he did it in a heartbeat, man. And now they look so formidable; it's ridiculous. They have such a good defense, and man, anybody who draws that game is going to be in for a war.
I think they have a perfect opportunity to further prove themselves. Now, one could say they've proved themselves already by beating Oregon and beating Ohio State. That Ohio State game, that was like their first true test. I think most people saw it as that. And then people say Ohio State really hasn't played anybody either. They played Texas in week 1 and won 14-7, and they were outgained by Texas. They stopped Texas 2 times within the 10-yard line on Arch Manning's first ever start against a real team, because he did have 2 games last year against some nobodies. But I'm actually really rooting for Indiana because they do look very formidable, and they should and could beat Oklahoma and Alabama. And I think if they do that, people will stop asking questions. But people, I think, will still look at him as kind of a one-hit wonder, kind of a Boise State. You know how Boise State was kind of going through that thing in the the late 2000s, 2008-ish. But then also recently they made some noise. I guess last year they made some noise, right? With Ashton Jonty. But I remember Indiana kind of being good maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They kind of got up to like a 7-2 start or something crazy like that.
Yeah, because I think Michael Penix was there, I believe, before he transferred.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were looking pretty good. But now, like I said, under Signetti, man, they're the real deal. And the biggest thing is, can they keep him there? That's the biggest thing, because these coaches jump ship so quickly. So if they can keep him there, maybe they can build something and no longer be known as a basketball school.
Yeah, the Tulane matchup. So there's the controversy, Tulane and James Madison. Yeah, I mean, do they belong in the playoffs? Should they have automatic bids? I understand all that. But recently I saw on Twitter, what was it, maybe 2 years ago, Tulane upset. Do you know off the top of your head what team it was? It was a big team. They upset them in a bowl game.
I remember the upset, but I don't remember who.
It was a top tier team. I want to say like Alabama.
It's like an Oklahoma or somebody.
It was somebody very significant. I don't know why I can't remember it right now. And that just told me that I guess it's possible. I mean, I think the big thing about them is Tulane and James Madison, even if they were to win their first game, there's no way they're making it all the way to the championship. But wouldn't that be something if they did?
I know it would be crazy, but that they're trying to get that March Madness feel to college football. And I know it sucks that there are some teams on the outside looking in who are probably better day to day, but you kind of hope that, okay, this is the David Goliath type of deal, and maybe someone gets an upset every blue moon. where they can be that Valparaiso, like from March Madness, or
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Commonwealth, someone that just kind of rises up from the ashes and knocks someone off and then gets destroyed in the next round. But I don't mind them getting in. And I hate to say that expansion is the answer as far as everyone else, but I don't know. Everybody can't get in. It's like win your games, you know?
Yeah, being a Texas homer, I have some issue. I don't have issue with Texas not making it. And I've told you this before. Nothing's worse than your typical college football fan that sits there and cries about things when their team doesn't get it. The most egregious recently is Notre Dame. I have friends that are huge Notre Dame fans. I don't have any issue with Notre Dame, but you can't be in the ACC in one sport and another conference in another sport and just choose to be independent in football. And I know they get a lot more money being independent, but when it comes down to winning your conference and who have you played, they're always going to be the outside guy looking in. They can't get in with 2 losses. They have to get in with maybe 1 loss or no losses.
Yeah, if you're going to play Stanford and Syracuse and teams like that, I think they only had one team in the top 25, and that was like a 17th ranked team or something.
I
Somebody
think
that
they
finished
played
17th.
Miami,
Okay, okay.
and that was their
I
only
can't,
win or
and yeah, and
loss,
so
something like that.
uh, all these other schools you're playing, and I get you have the rivalry with, maybe a Navy or something like that, but well, I think they played USC. I think that might be the ranked team I'm thinking of as well. Uh, but like you said, you can't pick and choose. You can't have it both ways. Join a
Mm-mm.
conference, then it kind of eliminates most of your problems. But I mean, to try to cherry pick these guys and then say, "Hey, we belong," just because we have 2 losses. Consider the other teams that may have 2 or 3 losses that play much tougher competition.
Yeah, and then to skip the bowl game, the boycott going to a bowl game. Like, I think I get it from the school aspect. I think it's very immature and childish, but a lot of those players, that's what they. I mean, we know that players love going to bowl games. You get all sorts of cool bowl swag, and you get to go on vacation essentially. And man, that would suck. And then the people want to see it too. Like, I'm Texas playing Michigan. That's not the first time they played each other in a bowl game, and it's not going to be the last time. But I don't know of anybody on the Texas or Michigan side that wants to sit out as far as a fan
Yeah,
goes. Everybody wants to
but
see it.
first, Notre Dame, their fans travel well, so they would not have a problem selling tickets. And so, like you said, that was kind of a brat move, in my opinion, for Notre Dame to skip. I get Iowa State because they lost their coach. So with all the turnover with staffing and everything, I mean, trying to get together for a bowl game might be a little difficult. People transferring in and out because the coach is gone. But I tell you this, and this is breaking news. It won't be by the time this airs, but Michigan just fired their coach.
No kidding.
No, it fired him, from what I read, inappropriate relationship with staff member.
Shamor?
Sure, Sharon Moore.
Sharon Moore. Wow. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
best job, best best job he would have ever had, and now it's gone.
Michigan's used to playing without a coach because they're always having those violations.
I don't get it, man. So look out, LSU might be coming for Lane
Wow.
Kiffin.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. They're gonna cut under and grab the Lane Kiffin deal.
Yeah, so
Yeah. That's so now. Okay, that kind of changes things a little bit. But we know the team can win a game or 2 or 3 without a coach. They're used to it. All jokes aside. But yeah, I didn't know that. That was breaking news. I'm bummed that Anthony Hill Jr. is declaring for the NFL draft. Texas, their best linebacker. I get it. He's played for 3 years. But that still really sucks for me. As far as Texas goes, my a few things. They did play and beat. They're the only team in the country to beat that many teams in the top 10 or play that many teams on the top 10. I think they went 3-1 against top 10 teams. The Georgia blowout will forever upset me because people remember it one of 2 ways. And I've listened to all the big commentators, and one will say that it was actually a closer game than people realize. And 14-10 at one point. And the other commentator will say they got their doors blown off at Georgia. And I think the final score being 35-10, or 35-14, something like that. 35-14, I think. It does look like they got their doors blown off. Well, 35-10. That's what it was, right? But I don't think that was the case. I don't think they would have won that game, but that kind of sucks. But then the loss to Florida. Everybody keeps treating the loss of Florida like they lost to Wyoming or Appalachian State. I mean, Florida is a there was 5 or 6 teams this year that didn't even have a coach, and they still balled out. Kentucky plays everybody safe or close. They always play Georgia close. Georgia always barely beats Kentucky, but Texas hadn't. People are getting mad at Texas because it took 2 overtimes to beat Kentucky, and it's just like Mississippi State, those SEC teams, man. And so that's my biggest gripe. But I don't think they necessarily deserve to go. Their record, sure, they played some good people, but me, man. I just didn't see it on a consistent basis week to week.
Yeah, and Texas. Listen, they lost to Ohio State and Georgia. Who's the third?
Florida.
And they lost to Florida in the swamp, which is a hard place to play. So when I look at that, and then when I look at Alabama losing to Florida State,
they got killed.
Yeah, at the and I don't know. If anything, if anybody had to come out, and a lot of people may hate this, I feel like if you had to swap Texas out with someone, swap them out with Alabama. They just didn't impress me, especially down the stretch. And I mean, Auburn almost took it to them.
Yeah, I was watching all those games at the end. It's like, man, no one talks about those close calls, or maybe they do, and I just don't see it because I'm stuck in the Texas algorithm. Georgia's had a bunch of close calls too. Obviously, Ohio State finally lost a game. They could have lost 1 or 2 of them. It'd be cool to see Notre Dame in it, but again, at the end of the day, but I mean, James Madison versus Oregon, come on. Ole Miss versus Tulane. Yeah, Ole Miss beat their brakes off earlier, but I don't know. But let's get to, Texas and Michigan. How exciting is that for us?
And I like it. I like that we got matched up with a bona fide, contender. So it kind of makes me feel good about how the Michigan season went, even though we didn't make the playoffs, to still end up in in the Citrus Bowl against a big time school makes me feel good. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm nervous, of course, because, I want them to fare well, but man, it's much better than seeing them matched up, in some little lesser bowl.
Yeah, and I'm curious how many of the dogs are going to sit out. Like if Colin Simmons, I don't think he said what he's going to do or not. I mean, Texas has some issues. CJ Baxter hit the transfer portal. He hasn't been a very good running back. I've been crying about their running backs for 2 years now. Trey Wisner, he hasn't declared yet, and maybe he'll stay, but he's not that good, So hopefully they get some dogs in there. They just fired their running backs coach. I don't know what kind of things are happening at Michigan besides firing your coach for having an inappropriate relations with somebody. But from a roster standpoint,
I don't know what to expect as far as the fallout behind that, because Sharon Moore really didn't strike me as the type of coach that now that he's gone, everybody's going to ship out. But you never know. I don't know what kind of relationship he had with the team, but he just didn't seem like he had been there very long. And as far as being the head coach, and he had that type of following to where other people are going to leave Michigan because he's no longer the head coach. So I'm pretty sure somebody may sit out, but my only concern is make sure we keep that quarterback there. I want to see what Underwood does, in a Michigan uniform in the future.
This was Moore's only second season? Because when he was offensive coordinator, right? Yeah, and then he got moved to head coach. Do you want Brian Kelly?
No, I'm just not a Brian Kelly fan, even though I think that's kind of his wheelhouse, being in the Big Ten recruiting area. I wouldn't be mad, but I'm just not really a fan of his as a coach, or he doesn't seem like he's just likable either.
Yeah, he seems like an asshole, and most people have nothing good to say about him, which is interesting. So, that says a lot, especially former students, parents.
That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, he just wants to win, and I think at that age, the kids want you to care about them too. So, there's multiple stories out there. A kid gets hurt, can't play football anymore, and never gets a visit from the coach, or there's tons of stories that are kind of out there like that, and that's just too bad.
What kind of performance do you expect out of Arch Manning?
I hope he plays. It's weird for me to say that. One of their quarterbacks just hit the portal. The other quarterback is no longer eligible, but I think he's eligible for at least a bowl. The guy who steps in and and throws those ice water in his vein passes all the time. But I do hope he plays. I still think he needs more reps. You know me, I watch that team like a hawk, and he's gotten better for sure. I don't take back anything I've said about him all year because for a while he just wasn't that good. And he's from a 2A school, and he still does some fundamental dumb shit. But overall, he's growing, and he could be great. I mean, I'm not calling him Tom Brady, but Tom Brady was pretty good at Michigan. But he was also, a fifth-round pick, and no one believed in him, and he became, in the eyes of most people, the GOAT. Which kind of takes me in a weird direction because thinking about Ryan Clark talking about people not being generational talents and everybody jumping on him for saying that. I'm not the huge Ryan Clark fan, but I don't dislike him either. But that take I thought was accurate because, how do you define generational talent? Well, coming out, LeBron James, right? I mean, coming out, they're just a can't miss talent, versus other people who kind of take a while to develop, a la, obviously Tom Brady or Drew Brees. Peyton Manning was a generational talent. He's been, he was the best since high school, right? So, I understood what he was saying, and it's just funny how everyone just jumped down his throat for saying those type of things.
I was just going to say he's a controversial figure, and sometimes I think he wants to be. But I agree. I agree with him on the whole generational talent thing. I mean, some people you just know, Magic Johnson. People you just know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and there's generational talents that just they peak, and they're in high school. They peak when they're in college, and they just Reggie Bush. I mean, he had a good NFL career. I don't care what anybody says, but coming out of college, whew, people were talking Gale Sayers, Barry Sanders, like the guy, and he just never became the guy, but he was pretty good.
He was solid.
Talking about the NFL, so I was very late in my Shedeur Sanders prediction of week 3, but he has started, and he has gotten better and better, and he's been very, very mature lately behind the camera and microphone when he's had opportunities to be immature. So, I mean, he's been looking pretty good, but we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on the Shedeur?
I think it helps playing the Titans. That gives him the confidence that he needs going forward. So, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. When you play a bad team, you're supposed to have a good performance. And so hopefully he can carry that over. So I don't know, man. To me, Shedeur is like a Game of Thrones character. You pull for him one day, then the next day he does something that makes you cringe, And I really think that he gets a lot of unfair treatment. Some of it he brings on himself, but a lot of it is unfair. So
Negative,
I kind of want for him. I kind of want him. Yeah. I kind of want him to succeed. I kind of want him to do well. I mean, I'm not saying be the next big thing or whatever, but be serviceable, show everybody that, hey, you belong in the league. So that's what I'm hoping for. Because by no means do I think he was ever supposed to be a 5th-round pick. He's not a 5th-round talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he makes it at times. He's a hard person to root for, but I don't root against him. It's the same deal. It's like if everyone's picking on the kid, I want the kid to rise up and be good. And that's kind of my deal with Shedeur too. Again, I have to throw this out there just because Deion Sanders is one of my favorite athletes and NFL players ever. That doesn't necessarily make me necessarily root for Shedeur, but the things that I think we've pointed out before in the past that he's had issues with, he's going to still have issues with. And so I'd like to see him grow in those areas, and he is. But, the controversy he's starting. Meanwhile, Travis Hunter, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but he's been out for the season now for a few weeks. And Ashton Jonty I haven't looked up his numbers. He kind of reminds me of an Alvin Kamara, but not as good.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good comparison. And but I don't know. The Raiders are starting to be like the Jets to the point where it's hard to evaluate talent on their teams. So I don't know. I'm hoping that he showed me enough in college to make me believe that he can be a good running back. So I hope they do something in Vegas to help him out.
I just need to see him break a tackle because he's not as good as like Bijan Robinson, who's a small guy too, but Bijan he has the moves. And he has the power if you need it, but he's probably going to wiggle around you. And, he's very elusive. I don't think Jonty's very elusive yet. I mean, he's got some moves, but at the pro level. things are a little different.
Oh, it's a lot different. I mean, hitting guys at University of Wyoming is a lot different than hitting somebody that plays with the Packers.
Yeah.
I mean, all these guys are big and strong and fast.
So what are your predictions now? I picked the field. Who do you got going all the way back to college football? Who's going to win it all? Because I don't think we're going to probably do another show until the new year and talk about football.
Yeah,
So we're going to get this out of you now.
it pains me to say it, but I think Ohio State is still that team. Even though Indiana got over on them once, I don't know. I mean, if they meet up again, if they can beat them twice. And so, as much as I despise saying it, man, I think Ohio State is going to be that team to beat. And I don't want to see them win it back to back, but I'm hoping somebody can rise up. I don't care if it's James Madison.
How crazy would that be? It's bracketed the way it's bracketed. I'm looking at it now, but just if you were to go into this without really knowing anything, you think this thing was like very one-sided. Because if all the teams win their first round, then you have Texas Tech and Indiana on the same side of the bracket. You have Georgia and Ohio State. I think Texas Tech might be, of the people that are ranked in the top 10, no disrespect to James Madison and Tulane, I think they might be the most untested and the weakest. And that's just because traditionally they've just been garbage. They've always been able to score, but they just can't do anything beyond that.
They're slightly different. Not to cut you off, but I'm gonna say they're slightly different this year because they spent some money. They spent some money
right.
and they have a defense. So it's not the high flying, high powered team they used to be on offense. They're strong on defense.
I was watching them against, was it BYU? So they played in the Big 12 championship game. They were looking good, but that's what's different, right? And for old heads like us, it's hard because I mean even James Madison probably has some money, right? And so maybe that's what's going on with Indiana. You can buy your team for a year, or you can change the culture. And so that's why I mean I would love to see Indiana go and play in the national championship game. But what we don't want to see is a Georgia versus TCU like we saw a few years ago, where TCU went and they just got killed.
Yeah.
That's
You want it to be competitive.
I think it's going to be Georgia or Ohio State.
Okay. So you think it's going to be one of the recent winners, I guess, and it's hard to pick against that. I mean, Georgia is just solid when they have to be, and then Ohio State, man, Ryan Day hasn't smiled since they won last year. So that guy's just, man. Sometimes I feel like he's going to stroke out on the sidelines. He looks so
Right.
stressed.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to look. So one half of the bracket, James Madison, Oregon, and Oregon. I love Oregon. I won't believe anything with Oregon until they actually win. Texas Tech, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Indiana. Versus Miami, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Georgia, Tulane, and Ole Miss. So I'm sorry. I know it's the NIL. I know things are different, but I just can't with Tulane. So you have Georgia, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Texas A&M. Those are all SEC teams.
All on the same side. And the only hope, I guess, for the other side of the bracket is that those teams beat each other up. By the time they get to the championship game, they're worn down. Because whoever wins on that side of the bracket, you would have to think they're going to be favored in the championship.
Right. Because I think it's funny to say this, but Miami, I know that they wanted to be in it and they're in it, but it looks like I think one of these teams played like 5 or 6 teams that only had like 2 wins or something crazy. I don't know if it was A&M or Miami or Notre Dame, which isn't in it, but one of those teams that was like right on the bubble or all the controversy. Basically, I think Texas A&M played like 5 teams that didn't even have a coach.
It's
Like, I'm serious. Yeah, it was something crazy like that. And so, I mean, I think Texas A&M was good by every measure. I mean, obviously Texas beat them, and that's the highlight of my year because I was legit worried.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice to well, I mean, obviously we're going to chat on Facebook Messenger all the time anyway. We're going to be watching, obviously, Michigan. I haven't really looked at the rest of the bowl games.
Clemson and Penn State looks interesting. That's going to be at Yankee Stadium.
Clemson,
And
but
Clemson
Penn State,
and Penn
they don't have
State.
a coach and they don't have a quarterback, right? Because didn't Penn State's quarterback go down too?
Yeah, I think he went out for the season. So, and there was another game that I can't think of that kind of piqued my interest. But I don't know. Maybe these people turning down all these bowl games. I think there were 9 schools that turned down bowl
Mm,
games. Maybe it's a sign that they need to cut down on the number of bowls they have. There are way too many
yeah.
bowls.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these matchups. Like, what the hell? Like for the Cricket Celebration Bowl. That's
Yeah,
this upcoming Saturday. So by the time this comes out, that's South Carolina State versus
and
Prairie
Prairie
View
View.
A&M.
Yeah, well, that's technically the
Is it the
national,
subdivision?
the Black College National Championship.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the HBCU thing right there, which I'm wearing my HBCU shirt. Shout out to Mississippi Valley State.
Shout out to Mississippi Valley State. Who was that? Was that Jerry Rice? Who went there?
Yeah. And they probably haven't won a game since he left. But yeah, but I mean, some of these bowls and there's so many teams with only 5 wins because a lot of the other schools turned down the bowl invites. So you're having teams that are with 5 and 7 records going to bowl games.
I wish I could go to the Michigan-Texas game on New Year's Eve, but there's no way in Orlando. Maybe I could talk my wife into doing that. Like, hey, you want to go to New Year's Eve? You want to go to Orlando for New Year's Eve? Maybe meet, hang out with some of the family after the game.
How about there you go. That's how you spin it.
She might. We got points.
Hey.
I'm going to ask her.
Okay. Man, that'd be nice.
Well, I check the ticket prices, but all right, Q. Well, I will talk to you probably on the other side of the new year officially on the podcast because we're going to have to do the NFL playoffs. Other than that, good luck for the Michigan Wolverines. Good luck finding a new coach.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Good luck to your Longhorns and happy holidays.
Welcome, happy holidays. Well, another month, another closing. If you like what you heard today or like what you watched today, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And make sure you go and tell a friend all about it. I want to thank our sponsors, Right Honda and Right Toyota, SparkForge AI from Marcus Foundry, one login, one platform, all under your control, AutoCannon officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Can't forget Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland, The Lucky Brakes out of Caledonia, Michigan, Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashbury, Virginia and Traverse City, Michigan, and Shaping Success Treasure Valley out of Boise, Idaho. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/hardparkingpodcast, or you can become a member on YouTube. There's a buy me a coffee option there. If you want to support the show, if you get value, if this is one of your favorite shows to watch, why not support it? Special thanks to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Grainsbauer Jones, Bo Jung, Alistair Mina, Drew Bunkley, and Dre Mullins. Questions, comments, and concerns, leave a comment below or email the show info@hardparking. Follow the show on Instagram @hardparkingpod. And make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. And I will see you guys next week.
Now it's stripping time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Shut up!